Hello there, everyone. Good morning, good night, depending on where you are, and welcome to another collaboration video of the Shield Doing a Couch. Today, I'm joined by Josh Keech, and Josh Keech is a fellow YouTuber, and also he's a musician. When he talks about music, he knows more than me, at least in the music aspect of it. I talk as a fan, and he put out an album, an EP, and here's the picture of the EP, Warrior in the Clouds, that he just released. Was it a month ago, Josh?
Yeah, it was just over a month ago, the
Yeah.
24th of June.
Yeah. So everyone, I did like a mini review on it, but it's a great instrumental album. There's thrash metal elements. There's more like other types of like. There's even a song that's like more grunge. So, uh, Josh, thank you for meeting me today and wanting to collaborate. So first of all, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks.
Thanks.
Um, Thanks for having me on your channel as well for collaboration as well. It's really, really awesome to
Yeah.
be here. Um, yeah,
Yeah. No, thank you, man. And today, the topic that we are going to discuss is bands that get people into metal. For example, Josh, I think he's going to talk more about like what got him into metal in his journey. And everyone already knows that I love Metallica. I got with Metallica as well. I'll talk about other bands that I think are gateway bands that could get people into harder music. So, since Josh is my guest today, Josh, why don't you start us off talking about like your journey into metal?
okay. Well, I kind of began my whole music journey when I was 12. And before then, I didn't listen to any music, alone, like not even like rock music or anything, or any like chart music, or nothing, literally. I just wasn't interested. I was never interested in music at school. But then my dad showed me Metallica, and it all changed after that. So you could say like my first proper band was Metallica, which is quite an interesting band to start with. But then from there, I got into a lot of my parents' music more. I just listened to what they recommended, what they liked, and some of the main bands that stood out for me during that time, sort of between 12 and 14, was Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix, Queen, and obviously Metallica as well was a massive band around that time. Um, and then I myself got into a couple of sort of newer bands around that time. An Irish rock and roll band called the Stripes. They were basically like a modern day Rolling Stones. They were really, really good. And also Royal Blood. I just, something about that band when they first started, I really enjoyed. Um, and then when I got to about 15, 16, I started around that time is when I started learning guitar, and I started meeting more people that were into a lot more different like music, like metal and rock, and started to get more into other bigger bands like Iron Maiden, a little bit, Gary Moore and Joe Satriani, Led Zeppelin, bands like that, and artists like that. And then I sort of started to get a little bit more into a bit more metal, and I was into a lot of like early Ozzy Osbourne and Megadeth, and also Steve Stevens as well. They were quite big around that time when I just started learning guitar, started to get more into rock music and metal music. Um, and then after that was sort of when everything sort of started to really come together. Even my own guitar sound and really expanding on what I was listening to at that point. Um, I started to get into a lot more blues music. I was learning a lot of blues stuff in my guitar lessons at the time as well, and I really got into. I got a whole load of blues compilation albums,
Mhm.
like a load of best of by quite a few blues guitarists, which are really, really cool. I also got into a lot more like virtuoso guitarists. I remember I got a CD of a Marty Friedman album. That was, I think it was Wall of Sound. I think that was new out around that time, and that really got me into the whole like virtuoso guitarists like Yngwie Malmsteen, Paul Gilbert, and Friedman and Satriani as well. Also around this time was sort of when I was starting to get a little bit more into more extreme metal, and the bands that really sort of set me up to get more into the metal world was Pantera, Machine Head, Slipknot, and Trivium. They were all massive bands around that time and really opened the door to this whole gateway of newer metal bands from, well, I say newer, but you know, bands from like the 90s and the 2000s that at that point I'd never heard of most of them, to be honest. I was quite new to it all because, you know, before then I'd only listened to older stuff before that, really. Um, and yeah, from that moment onwards, I sort of got myself into a lot more metal and a lot more um, different styles of metal at that point. I got into a lot more thrash metal, um, and even got into some metalcore, the 2000s style metalcore bands like Killswitch Engage, Bullet for My Valentine, As I Lay Dying, them kind of bands. I really enjoyed. And then I started to get into other stuff like death metal, deathcore, um, and bands like Lamb of God and Avenged Sevenfold as well. And yeah, from sort of age of 19, which was around 2019, up to now, I've sort of been delving more into that kind of stuff, a lot more second tier thrash and first and second tier death metal bands. And I'm still discovering to this day. And yeah, that's really my whole music beginnings, getting into rock and metal music.
Yeah, yeah. You're way younger than me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, those are, I got into metal. I said it, because of Metallica, the Black Album. That was my first experience into metal. Before that, I listened to what my parents played on the radio or anything else. So I got into metal that way. But I've spoken so much of Metallica. I'm going to give Metallica a break. I'm going to talk about other bands that maybe have been gateway bands to other people. And I think this one that I'm going to show right now is a big one. Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory. This is an album that, some people may complain about it, because it has some other elements, but this is a band that got a lot of people into 2000 into heavier music. They listened to this at the time. They didn't think there was anything heavier than this. And then they started listening to other type of music. So this is a great example of a gateway band, a band that it's more accessible, more commercial, and could get the masses listening to rock and metal. And once they discover this, they can go down a rabbit hole and maybe listen to some Cannibal Corpse and some harder shit. I must say, when this came out, I was living in the United States. I already finished college, so I was like 22 when this came out. But I gotta say, I liked it when it came out. I really liked that it was. I like the Chester Bennington as a singer, and I like I know you hate rap, but I like some experimentation music. So I think this is a perfect example of a gateway album because this is a band that appeals to to people that probably don't listen to metal. And there's some people that because of this got into more metal, and some obviously didn't. And I'm glad you mentioned Avenged Sevenfold because I have City of Evil here, and this is a band that I think is a great gateway band. And it's more pure metal, because I think when I think of Avenged Sevenfold, I think it's like a mix of if Metallica, Guns N' Roses, and Iron Maiden had a baby, it would
Yeah.
be called Avenged Sevenfold. That's like the type of song. And to me, this is their favorite, my favorite album of them, City of Evil. When this came out back in 2005, uh, I really enjoyed it a lot because it reminded me of like older bands, but with a newer sound. And this is a band, a great gateway band that got other people into metal. I know that they get shit a lot because the logo looks like the overkill, the skull, and maybe some people say that, oh, they're too, with the emo part sometimes. But I think Avenged Sevenfold is a great band. I like their last album that had more like proggier things into it, and I can't wait to see what they do next. They have some albums, like they had an album that really sounded like copy paste Metallica, that I was like, but I think City of Evil to me is still my favorite album, and I know you like them too, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah. I'm pretty fan of them. Yeah.
Yeah, another band that I think is a band that can get a lot of people into metal, and even though it's not a metal band, it's more like punk, emo, if you will, is My Chemical Romance. And Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge. I have their other album that I really like, but this was my introduction to them, and I really liked that there was like some emo and punk to them, but they could really play. There were some nice shredding on some of the songs, and I think Gerard Way was a great singer. And this is a band that got a lot of like people that maybe didn't listen to hard music to get into more harder style music. That's why they're going on tour now and selling out. So that's another example of a gateway band. And this one is another one from the 90s that I loved it when it came out. This is Incubus, Make Yourself. They're more alternative, like they were lumping in the new metal, but I don't know why, because I don't think they mesh well with new metal. I think they're more of an alternative rock band. I think their first album maybe had something with a DJ, but they didn't sound like new metal. Like Brandon Boyd doesn't rap; he sings, and he's a great singer. And this is an album. I think this is one of their best albums. It had great, catchy songs on it. Uh, I really like their lyrics, and I think it's another band that got people into more harder types of bands. And obviously, bands like you were mentioning, the Iron Maidens, Trivium. Trivium's a great example, and Trivium's more metal, of a band that I remember where Trivium came out. They sounded more. Their first album did sound a little bit like Metallica clones, but then they found their sound. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I agree with what you said. Uh, those bands got you into metal, and I want to get back to your EP, because your EP has some different types of elements to it. Uh, uh, like when you were writing that EP. Now this became an interview. when you, when
Yeah.
you
No.
were yeah, when you were writing that EP, what type of sounds? Since you're influenced by a bass type of metal, what like did you went to it like I want to do different styles, or did you want to get like a style in mind when you did your Walk in the Clouds EP? And I'm going to show the picture again.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, um, honestly, as I was writing it, I was sort of around that point when what I was saying earlier, when I first started learning guitar, and I was starting to listening to a lot of different rock and metal music, like Maiden, Gary Moore, Satriani, Megadeth, Metallica, and all that kind of stuff. When I was sort of between like 16 and 18, that was sort of when I started to get more accomplished on guitar, started writing a lot of those ideas at that point. And I don't know, merely I was just sort of writing what I was listening to mostly. And that kind of helped me learn guitar. And definitely learned songwriting as well, because a lot of those ideas that I had for the tracks, sort of at the beginning, they were just literally just ideas, just like, oh, that sounds cool, I'll write that down. And then years later, as I revisited a lot of the ideas, I thought, you know what, I could probably do something with all of these. And as for the solo sound, I got that influence from Satriani, because that's what he does. His solo sound is just instrumental, leads throughout and melodies throughout that sort of mimic vocals or mimic singing. I remember him saying that in an interview where he would sort of hum the melody and then he would record it and then learn it on guitar and play it on guitar for the album. And I kind of did something similar with that for a couple of the tracks where where it just would have been boring if I hadn't have had any lead melodies going on. So, I basically had the tracks, and then I thought I need to add like some lead melodies over these tracks to sort of turn them into more song style songs rather than
Yeah.
rather than just one riff and then another riff and then that's it. They all come together over a pretty long period of time, from about sort of 2016 17, listening to a lot of different music, and then having the time like beyond that to now to put it all together and make the songs.
Nice. Yeah, no, and I could listen to different like every like inspiration in band that you mentioned. I think you can listen to that in your EP, like the different type of influences that you had growing up, the bands that got you into this style of music. So I think that's great. And so people, we would want to know what were your bands that got you into metal, the gateway bands that personally got you into metal. Comment. We would like to know what bands like inspired you, or the bands that you like, oh, I listened to this and then I discovered like heavier music, and that's how I got hooked into this style of music, because you have to start somewhere. For example, me and Josh, it was Metallica. Some people could be the Linkin Parks, the Papa Roach, depending on your age and where you live too. But everyone, please check out Josh Keech YouTube channel. He talks about different topics in metal. Sometimes he does album reviews, but he focuses more on like topics, like metal topics. And also he plays some guitar on his channel and he promotes his music. So go there, give him a like, subscribe, so you can listen to more of his music and find out more of what he thinks of different topics in metal. So, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, like, come on, hurry up. I have a lot of stuff on my channel that I'm doing. So, subscribe and hit the notification so you don't miss new videos. So, Josh, I want to thank you for taking some time with me, to talk about bands that got you into metal, and also a mini improvised kind of interview talking about your album. So, people, until next time, this is Hector the Shield on a couch and Josh Keech, and we'll see you next time on another collaboration video. Thank you and good night.